Hello, everyone. This is Bryant Fraser. I'm the editorial director at Studio Daily, and this is today's webinar, Future-Proof Your Digital Assets with Workflow Built to Scale. I'm here today along with our sponsors from Quantum and representatives from CatDV and QLS Distribution. We are going to be talking about future-proofing digital assets, digital asset management, media asset management. And while the folks in the room do have products to sell that can do all these things and more, we are making an effort to give you a lot of the facts and information you'll need to know to make informed decisions as you navigate this, what can be a fairly perplexing part of your technological pipeline and your video and audio workflow. So we're going to get into it in just a moment, but first I have a few housekeeping notes. The first one is a procedural issue, which is question and answer. We will be having a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. If you have questions, please do enter them as they occur to you. You can do that in the question and answer panel that is on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you look all the way down at the bottom of that panel, there is a little text input space where you can type your question in. Click the little word balloon, and it will send us the question, which we will add to a queue, and we'll go through the queue at the end and get to as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. Share them among the panel and try to make sure everyone's oriented correctly as they come out of what should be a fairly dense information dump today. If you can hear me, then you're obviously doing fine where audio is concerned, but I did put a note up on the screen. If you do end up having audio or any other strange kinds of problems with the Adobe Connect interface, it is pretty bulletproof, but when weird things happen, generally closing your browser and then opening the link again fresh can solve the problems, or if at all possible, try opening it in another browser. And generally that will solve any problems that you have. Finally, everybody always wants to know if they missed part of the presentation, they showed up late or had to leave early, how can they see the full thing? That's not a problem. If you have registered for this event, just keep an eye on your email and everybody will receive a link that will lead you to an on-demand replay of the complete webinar. All right, so I think those are the main boilerplate points to get out of the way. So we're going to get to know our guests today. Over on the left, that's your host, actually. That's me. I'm Bryant Fraser, the editorial director here at Studio Daily. Next up, we're going to have presenter Dave Clack. Dave is in charge at Squarebox, and Squarebox makes CatDV. So they have a lot of deep experience with helping creative teams manage audio, video, graphics, images, all the stuff that goes into content pipelines today. And they're, have a big range of customers using their stuff globally. Next, we're going to hear from Matt Stamos. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Matt. But Matt is the Technology Alliance Manager at Quantum. He's been in the broadcast and post markets for more than 25 years. He's deployed more than 500 asset management and storage systems around North America for a range of customers. So again, he has a really deep background in what's required, what makes these things work, and what people need to know and keep in mind as they make decisions. And then on the right, we have Ken Bell. Ken is the MD and the CEO at QLS Distribution. They represent CatDV outside of the U.S., in Canada, and most of Europe. And he's been doing this for more than 20 years now, and recently QLS has started doing software development. So they've written some custom integrations for CatDV products. So he has a lot of insight into what some of the special sauce and other handlers have to go into making sure the different components of your system do what you need them to do, exchange the right kind of information to get the job done in your particular special Snowflake facility. At that, I'm just going to call back to the last webinar we did with Quantum. We did a session over the summer, and we're really talking about it was also about future-proofing your workflow in a way. We talked to Citizen Pictures in Denver, who had recently switched over to Adobe, and they were getting ready for a 4K future and trying to make sure that they were set to scale and pretty much handle anything that came at them. And we did a couple of surveys of the people who attended that webinar. And first we asked them what technologies were currently part of their workflow, One of the possible answers was media asset management, and a little more than half the people in the room, about 53%, said that they had already implemented MAM in their workflow. And then we asked people what they expect to be using in their workflow within the next year, and at that point another 42% said media asset management. So if you add those two numbers together, you're getting pretty close to 100% of media professionals who either are already working with media asset management in their pipeline, or recognize that in the very near future, just as they're making sure that their storage capabilities pipelines are up to speed with what their clients are going to be demanding, they also realize that they have to get media asset management set up so that they can keep track of and efficiently move all these assets around their organization. So it's definitely a key topic, sometimes a vexing one, but we're going to try and shed some light on that today. And the first light shedder is going to be Dave Clack. Again, Dave Clack is the CEO of Squarebox Systems, and I'm going to hand the presentation over to Dave.
Great. Thanks, Brian. And thanks, everybody, for taking the time to join us today. So I have to say I'm pretty excited to be having this presentation about how to future-proof digital assets with workflows built to scale. Often we find ourselves in webinars such as this banging on about how great our product is, and I think we've really challenged ourselves to really try and explain and share some of our insight from over 15 years in the media asset management business, providing tools to manage file-based workflows for more than 1,000 enterprise customers. So what we would like to do is to kind of run through some of the kind of key ingredients for how to future-proof digital assets with workflow built to scale. So great storage, great asset management, clearly we believe are massively important for organizations trying to do this stuff. But first, what do we actually mean to be able to future-proof these digital assets? Well, I guess in real simple terms, it's just putting the right content in the right place at the right time. I mean, how hard can that be? Well, I think as we'll probably see in the remainder of this discussion, it can be quite challenging. And as context, I think, and hopefully this will resonate with many of the folks on the webinar today, that we're seeing a huge explosion in content. So never before in history is content being created faster than it is today. It seems that there's a near infinite demand for high quality, engaging programming, not only the traditional broadcast and production environment, but from many newer entrants. So web broadcasters, clearly, my kids don't watch broadcast TV, they watch very tailored, very customized, very segmented stations on the internet that are targeted specifically at their gender and their age group. And then brands want to engage with their stakeholders in creative ways and create different relationships with their stakeholders, with their customers. And so we're finding that not only are these traditional broadcast and production network style folks needing asset management, but folks in the education space, recording lectures, collaboration between students, assignments for students, increasingly are video assignments rather than just written submissions. People in research, sharing findings, clearly people in sports, maintaining the historic record, making compelling fan-based content. Corporates to engage customers, and you only have to walk around a major city to see how much digital signage there is, how much video there is surrounding all of us in the lives we live today. So there's a massive explosion of content, which is great. But content is not only valuable to these brands and these broadcasters, but it's costly to make. And if you look at how much content is in how many locations these days, budgets are not scaling to that same near infinite level. So cost is absolutely crucial for everybody working with this kind of information, this kind of media. So that's the kind of the content, the context that we're trying to operate when trying to future-proof our assets. So I mentioned that we've been in the industry a long while, so we do have some pretty strong opinions. I think after 15 years of working with file-based workflows, it's not unreasonable for us to consider ourselves pioneers in the industry. In fact, for many years, I think we were probably a product looking for looking for customers who realised they had a problem. That's very much not the case these days, but in the early days we started pretty slowly, I have to say. So not only do kind of these ingredients for how to future-proof your digital assets represent our view, but we like to think that we're the kind of organisation that listens and tries to hear what our customers, prospects, and other folks around the industry are telling us about their challenges and the things they need to do with their content. So we listen to folks when we're out in the marketplace. And then a lot of this stuff that I'm going to talk about as well is based on some research we commissioned over the summer of 2016, where we reached out to our database of industry experts, customers, to prospects, to resellers, to partners, and we surveyed what they saw as challenges and the important things around the asset management market. And so what we're going to present in terms of these kind of key ingredients for how to future-proof your digital assets are really based not only on our view, but on a pretty comprehensive view across the market as well. So here are, I guess, the 6 key ingredients, and then of course, money always matters, so we have cost and return on investment in the middle of our little circle. And we're going to take a little time to just step through these. So securing content, being able to search content, share content simply, be able to scale clearly, and do so in a safe manner. So let's just kind of run through those real quick. First off, being able to secure and store your content. So, having taking a look at the storage landscape in the last few years, then to handle this increasing volume of content, the storage landscape is also increasing in sophistication and in complexity. Multiple storage tiers need management, and Ken will talk a bit about that later on. At the same time, users just need their content in the right place at the right time. So things need to be really simple. So underpinning a lot of this work is the storage, and the architectures are becoming more complicated, but users are becoming more demanding and needing simplicity. This is where we believe that asset management really can add value. So asset management can provide a great window onto storage, whether your content is stored on very high performance near line storage, through to archived tapes, optical, cloud, whatever. So being able to manage that complex storage environment is vital for any end-to-end solution of asset management and great storage. At the same time, we can't afford to make any mistakes. So you can't say, oh, can you just go and run that Olympics race again, please, because we've somehow corrupted the content on our disk. This content is valuable, sure. Often it's irreplaceable. And so the data integrity and the reliability of your asset management tool combined with your storage have to be absolutely spot on. So no mistakes. So a high bar. Second ingredient is search. Everyone calls this industry search. I think I prefer to call it find. Maybe it doesn't have quite the same ring to it, because searching is easy. It seems that looking at our survey results, people are spending, even small production teams, 6 to 8 people in a small production team, one to two people, full-time people, are spent managing files and searching for stuff. So it's kind of easy, but it's also expensive. Finding things is really pretty crucial, and finding things, again, is not a trivial problem to fix. We like to think that our products, and in fact all leading asset management tools, make it very simple to tag content so that it can be found later. And that's not just tagging content to say, hey, this game involves these 2 teams that are playing, but these are the time markers, the time-based tagging to say these are particular points of interest in the content. And I think a lot of there are a lot of asset management tools that don't put creative content, video, audio at their heart, that really don't have those time-based capabilities that the best media asset management tools do. And so another thing that's really important about being able to find stuff is making this tagging really, really straightforward. It is a bit of a tax, you need to be able to tag content to be able to find it. So the more you can do to harvest metadata, harvest tags from existing file systems, existing spreadsheets, or even automated transcripts or automated image detection, for example. All those kind of things, those kind of technologies are really cool to being able to really enable search. Clearly, once you've got those tags in, then you really can enable this reuse and repurpose, which is a way to save money, given that budgets aren't increasing infinitely and these media assets are expensive to make. I guess lastly on search, another piece of insight from our perspective is that there are so many different stakeholders in the content creation and the content distribution process that each of them have different needs, and so the right user experience is really crucial, ideally integrated with the right creative tools. So, for example, we have a panel that runs in Adobe Premiere, so people don't realize necessarily they're using CatDV, but we're putting our search tools right in the middle of the creative tool set in order to really unlock the power of that search and find within the tools that people are using day to day. Okay, our third ingredient, all about sharing. So it's all very well, you've got your content, it's all being neatly managed and organized so it can be found later, but we work in a complex business environment, and so we find that production teams are pretty often distributed. Certainly reviewers might well be in very different places than the folks that are creating content. And underpinning that, the technical landscape's changing. So, people are using different cameras, different edit tools, and so being able to seamlessly share the content that's being created and managed is pretty vital in any solution that's going to safeguard assets for the long term. And so sharing is a really critical part of media asset management. Tools really have to enable collaboration between different teams in different places and different time zones. And one of the great things about asset management is that it provides a real single view of truth. Everybody has exactly the same status information, whether it's about quality control, approvals, the rights that apply to particular clips. Then having everything in a central core database really enables folks to just be able to manage their environment. Knowledge is power. And so getting that knowledge into a system like a strong asset management tool is really valuable for an organization. And then lastly, sharing isn't just about sharing data between people. These days, there's so much interaction between different systems that storage systems, asset management systems need to be able to share data beyond their own boundaries. So asset management doesn't exist in isolation. We know that we need to integrate with things like QC products or approvals products or rights management products, being able to share metadata through an end-to-end process. So we're not just sharing between people, we can share between systems. Okay, our fourth ingredient is simplicity. So, and in fact, in our survey this year, we found that simplicity, while at the same time being powerful, was the #1 challenge our respondents reported. So we know from experience that there are quite a number of systems out there that are super simple, in fact almost trivially simple. They're really limited at the same time. And we know there are quite a lot of systems out there that are massively powerful, massively complicated, usually pretty expensive, and ultimately become quite hard to use. And so they often don't deliver the same return on investment that folks really want to get out of their implementations. So I think the best asset management tools are both simple and powerful at the same time, and that is a real tightrope. It's a very difficult challenge to be able to pull off. It's something certainly that we spend many hours scratching our heads about to make the products do more, but make them simpler, make them easier to use for those folks that are engaging with them day to day. I think I touched on the fact that the media is different. So video and audio is fundamentally different from more of the traditional kind of digital asset management tools in the marketplace. So, file sizes. I think if you compare a standard SD file with a 4K high frame rate, high dynamic range file, it's kind of 64 times bigger, and these files were already pretty large. So working with absolutely massive file sizes working with masses of camera formats and different codecs has a lot of complexity. So, if you're going to choose a good asset management tool, it really needs to be able to thrive in that complex environment where the underlying technology is pretty complicated, but it appears really simple to the end user. And that simplicity doesn't just relate to how people use the system, it relates to how people configure the system. We know many of these large and complicated asset management tools, you get a consultant for a year to sit with you, or 6 months maybe, to sit with you and make the system work. We think that, that the configuration of systems should be done by intelligent people, but not necessarily people who've had to study the computer science degrees to be able to get systems up and running. So simple to use as well as simple to configure. Our fifth ingredient, scale. Clearly tools have to be ready for the enterprise. And so, we know that there are several of these kind of simpler systems in the market where they'll run out of road. They might run out of road in terms of the number of assets they can support, or the number of users that they can support. So having a tool that can scale with you as you become more sophisticated in your asset management needs is really important. Being able to start smaller and then grow to the most sophisticated workflows, the largest numbers of assets, the largest numbers of users, with as many integration points as you can to enable asset management to fit with other business systems. So scale, being able to operate within the enterprise, absolutely vital. And then our sixth point, our last one really, before moving on to cost, because it was about money, is safety. And I think we've talked about trust and safety of data earlier on. That's our first point was about storage and securing content. What we're talking about in terms of safety here is trust not only of that data, but of the partners you're going to work with. And I think that trust comes from a number of things. So are the partners you're going to work with going to offer you an open system, or are they going to lock you into their ecosystem forevermore? Do your partners have a track record of being able to support similar organizations in your industry? Can you trust them to deliver a solution that's actually going to work? Or is it going to be some hot air or vaporware that's not quite ready yet, or not really being used in anger? Are the products that you're looking at in active development? Are the vendors that you're talking to actually putting money back into making the product better? Are they passionate about being the best in the world at doing asset management or storage, whatever? That is another aspect of choosing a partner wisely, being safe in your choice of asset management. Clearly strong technical support. One of the things we love about working with our colleagues at Quantum is we share very similar attitudes towards solving customers' problems if things do go wrong. Strong technical support is vital. And then organizations need to be financially secure. So there are a lot of storage vendors, there are a lot of asset management vendors in the market. Being able to take a look at companies that have been around for a long term, that aren't necessarily massively indebted or VC funded, with all sort of folks hovering around trying to get loads of money out of the organization, then organizations be financially secure and able to make their own decisions for the company's benefit, yes, but also for the product's benefit. Those are all aspects of safety that are vital when choosing a great asset management tool that's really going to safeguard those assets for the long term. So those are the kind of main key ingredients, but then cost effectiveness is clearly massively important. So with this burgeoning content, this massive explosion in content that's being created, being able to manage this increasing volume of content by being able to reuse stuff, well, that's great. Yeah, I think that's one of the clear benefits out of an asset management tool. But at the same time, our survey this year told us that people are wasting a lot of time and a lot of money. So I mentioned, 1 to 2 people, even in small production teams, are spending, 1 to 2 people full-time are managing files, managing search. There's a lot of waste, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even in very small teams. There's a hidden cost, a latent cost of working with files. And people are really finding that, traditional file and folder naming, spreadsheets, is just such a waste of time, such a waste of money. And another key indicator that came out of our survey and our research over the summer is that we found that more than half of respondents told us that poor asset management is an inhibitor to their business growth. So this is really not an option any longer. Just getting by with that guy in the corner that knows how to find stuff, essentially Googling a person. He's the one that's able, he or she's the one that's able to remember where that content is, find it on some shelf or some tape somewhere. That's no longer good enough. And then lastly, we talk about asset management and storage. It's about files, it's about metadata, but actually a massive area for potential savings is in automation and what we call workflow logistics. Moving files between storage tiers, being able to work with transcodes and other systems. That automation of an end-to-end process is absolutely critical in delivering return on investment. And I think we can demonstrate across both asset management and storage that there is not just cost savings, but there is a return on that investment in terms of benefits as well. So, I mean, essentially that's really what I wanted to kind of to try and share. These are kind of our views of what we think are important. Being able to secure your content, great search, being able to share and work collaboratively, be simple but at the same time powerful, work at scale in the enterprise, and be safe, all at the same time being cost effective and generating a great return. So I think those are kind of our thoughts on the industry and what it takes to future-proof your digital assets. At this point, I'll hand over to Matt Stamos from Quantum, who will continue the story.
Thanks, Dave. So I'm going to talk about storage for demanding workflows, and many of the MAM workflows in and of themselves are very demanding. What we see and what customers really, the value they get out of not only Quantum but CatDV is different. Every customer is going to sort of utilize different features of CatDV, but just like many customers are going to utilize different components of Quantum and the StoreNext solutions. So we think that it's really exciting to kind of go into customers' environments, discover more about what they're doing, and understand how these tools can be combined to really solve those day-to-day business problems. And we'll talk a little bit about what some of those challenges are. In a lot of environments, and folks may see their own environments or their customers' environments in here. What I really want you to look at from this slide is really that middle section of storage, right? And a lot of environments are going to have different storage for different users and different departments doing different things, and they have different requirements. And one of those that falls into the asset management and really in the storage part too is, if you ask 10 different people what an organized file and folder structure looks like, you'll get 10 different answers, and really they'll all be right. And I think that's where combining the sort of power of StoreNext, having that tiered approach and that multi-tier storage architecture, and CatDV really brings this sort of divergent storage pieces together, right? So now I've got a unified storage environment. Now I've got a unified asset management, sort of like that single file system look into my files, and really CatDV, that sort of software interface into not only my media assets. CatDV can organize really any file that the client sees. So to me, that's really exciting, being able to not only unify the storage, but unify the workflow and unify people's user interfaces and their access to these things. So when we talk about the different challenges around storage, obviously different stages in the workflow have different challenges, right? So in high performance environments, you're going to want SSDs or RAID sets, or in our case, we actually have a hybrid, so you can mix SSD and traditional hard drives in the same chassis. There's object storage tiers that are good for web delivery and things like that because of their proximity sort of to the internet. Digital tape, again, the most cost-effective way to store your stuff. Quantum has a full line of, I have trouble hearing me. Let me turn this up. So we have a full complement of tape libraries. In fact, there's a whole new host of tape libraries out. We have 3 new tape libraries out. So we have an i3, i6, and an AEL6. And then cloud offerings. So you'll see some new offerings from us around cloud, but we also have existing cloud offerings. So to me, that's super exciting, being able to bring these different tiers of storage under sort of one umbrella, right? And when a customer is looking at their environment, trying to understand what the challenges are, depending on where they're at in their workflow and in their cycle, they may be needing a platform for production, right? And in our case, that's Excellus, right? So Excellus is this platform that really allows high performance collaboration in up to 8K formats. We have multiple customers and partners doing 8K today. Traditionally, this is RAID, but again, SSDs have kind of come into play for more random workflows and high performance workflows. You know, and a customer might come to us and be looking for that platform to collaborate. And it used to be that collaboration might be, you know, just on the storage, but now we're seeing that collaboration is really extending beyond the network, right? So people are collaborating over the internet. They're accessing content not just over traditional NAS or SAN connectivity. They're now using the cloud. They're using S3 protocols. They're using all sorts of different connectivity options for that collaboration to go beyond the traditional network. So when we look at delivery really in today's world, it used to be you ship tapes around. You used to ship a physical piece of media. In today's delivery, you need a platform that's accessible, right? That has the protection built in to preserve that content and be accessible in the sense that you're able to quickly and easily deliver that content to its appropriate locations. And really that allows customers to extract value out of that content. The value of the content goes up and down over time. And in reality, you need a delivery platform that can not only scale for your capacity, but scale for performance and provide the connectivity to adapt to all these delivery mechanisms. When we talk about archive, a lot of times customers come to us and maybe their high performance storage is fine, but they need an archive. And really, Quantum is a worldwide leader in LTO. Like I said, we have these new LTO devices. We still have our existing LTO devices, and that extends beyond LTO. So object storage can be a target for archiving. Cloud can be a target. We also have disk-based systems that can be a target. You can literally have sort of a plethora of targets, if you will, for the archive. And this is built into StoreNext, and this is something that CatDV in particular can take advantage of, right? So there's APIs in there, and we'll let Ken talk about that, but we'll talk a little bit about how CatDV utilizes these APIs in an archive workflow. And I think when we talk about every step of the workflow being different, I think you can see when you approach a storage workflow, we can literally provide the high performance storage for ingest, the editing and processing that usually is on high performance, transcode and delivery, again, depending on the environment. Some high performance environments that have a lot of throughput might actually have high performance storage in their transcode. Stuff that maybe is less time sensitive can use more commodity type storage. And the same goes for archive, right? So there's all of these different options around archive. Maybe today a customer is not looking at cloud, but having cloud functionality built into the archive solution really does open up options, not only to scale, but for the flexibility of having different tiers that you can either start with or add on as you go. So to me, that's super important. I think what we're trying to say here, though, when we talk to customers is matching the appropriate storage device for each step of the workflow. So it really is about understanding where the customer's at. They may or may not need SSD or RAID in their particular case, or they do. We can really help customers determine that. Same goes for transcoding and archiving. You know, oftentimes if it's cost-driven archive, maybe it's going to be LTO, but if there's other factors involved in the decision-making, cloud, private cloud, and even disk options can come into play for archiving. So again, flexibility and applying really the right technology for the job at hand. So what I think is exciting is that you can bring all of these things together under the banner of Quantum and the solutions around StoreNext. Again, offering customers the ability to sort of go all SSD, hybrid SSD and RAID, traditional RAID, object storage, which could, you know, function as private cloud or nearline, and digital tapes. Again, that full sort of product family around LTO tape, and really the features and functionality around that have improved so much. That tape really is, I think we used to coin a joke that LTO tape is the tape for the tapeless workflow, right? And then finally cloud. So Quantum has a series of cloud offerings. There's new cloud offerings coming on. We're sort of all in on the cloud. So if customers have existing cloud offerings, we can have a conversation around that. If they want to add cloud to their storage infrastructure, we can have that conversation. So to me, it's super exciting to be able to have a conversation with a customer and really be able to apply the right technology for what they're doing in their business, what they're doing in their workflow. So again, I think it's super important overall look at things. And that sort of leads down a mutual customer. So this is a mutual customer at Notre Dame, and they are doing primarily sports. And so, you know, over 120 to 130 athletic events a year, you know, literally over 1,000 highlight videos. And they really do collaborate not only across the sports industry, but with ESPN and all these different outlets. So delivery is a big, big challenge for them. They're moving now and doing more video content outside of sports, right? So they're expanding this use of this infrastructure of CatDV and StoreNext to not only handle the sports activities and the video and content around sports, but they're exposing this to the larger university. And I put this one quote in here from Scott, and you know, Scott's a great guy. He's had a ton of experience in this space, and this was really, for him, it was kind of summed it up. It's like, you know, projects that literally took them hours to complete, we're out in minutes. And the net effect of that, the result of that, is that they're able to spend more time being creative, right? They're not spending time sort of fighting the technology to get their message out. They're spending their time on that message. So to me, that's super important, and there's a lot more information about this case study out there if you guys want more. Also, I think super important is within quantum, you know, quantum's always been pretty good, to be quite honest, at these really highly sophisticated, complex workflows. We actually have created a whole product line that comes from that we call ProRes Solutions. So on our website, you can look at ProRes Solutions, and they're bundles, they're packages that include the support, the software, the hardware, that really combine solutions that come from this experience. So we have entry-level ones like the Pro Foundation, and ones for more specific types of workflows like a 4K bundle. We also on our website and really deep within quantum, we have, I think, 30 plus of these reference architectures. So we took deployments that we had with customers, and we basically wrote them out, right? So you have essentially what was the Visio diagram of what this customer deployed and segmented by a vertical market. So we've got really sophisticated 4K finishing, editorial and VFX animation reference architectures, as well as surveillance and enterprise backup and all these other types of storage workflows as well. So really great place to be able to see how the sophistication can grow. Sometimes this is where a customer needs to be on day one, but sometimes this might be looking into the crystal ball and seeing, hey, you know, this is where we really want to get to. So I think that's where those Pro Solutions come into play. You can kind of start with one of those, add components to that Pro Solution over time, and then create these more sophisticated, more complex workflows. And then, you know, fundamentally, it's an end-to-end platform. I really love the fact that I can talk to a customer really about any of their storage challenges, and whether those storage challenges are around that primary storage, or whether they're around an archive or cloud or collaboration. Having this end-to-end set of solutions really allows us to go in there and understand more about what the customer's challenges are, and finding really the right fit from not only a technology standpoint, but a business standpoint, and find the best fit for that customer for where they're at today, and hopefully have a plan that's flexible and scalable into the future to sort of meet their business needs around storage, and at the same time supporting you know, our partners like CatDV, which really gives such a great insight into the storage itself. You know, that said, we're going to toss it over to Ken here, and Ken will talk about the QLS plugin, SN Archive, that connects the dots, if you will, a little bit between CatDV and Quantum StoreNext.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. Usually our archive comes at the end, so you've got me, but the growth of media has made the management or the structure of saving data even more important. So archive is now one of the top requirements of any storage or MAM system, or how they link together. This has become very prevalent in the last 10 years. No one knows when to press the stop button on a phone or camera, and more importantly, what do we keep or what can we throw away? So in some cases, people want to get rid of everything, keep only the finished material, and in some cases, no one can decide what to keep and what not to keep. Following on from this, the file sizes are growing exponentially every year as the various camera manufacturers come out with new codecs, TVs, 2K, 4K. People are talking about 8K. Someone mentioned 16K to me the other day. And as storage and editing package have become cheaper over the last 5 years, more companies are managing their in-house content, and media as a vehicle to marketing those companies has become more important. So where 80% of our business maybe 6-7 years ago was focused on the broadcast and production space, I'd say that has almost turned around to be, we have a lot of corporate customers, a lot of universities. This has become a worldwide phenomenon now that people have to manage media. Following on from this, what is the value of the content you want to hold? In many cases, the value of those assets, whether it's you viewing a horse race, a football match, it could be Formula One, it could be NASCAR, they want to repackage or rebrand those, say for Christmas or really just for selling on to other broadcasters. So the Media Mountain is what has made archiving and storage and MAM more important. And as Steve said earlier, the problems to be solved are where is it on the storage, what is it, and how do I find it? And clearly, to achieve this goal or to achieve these goals, you need to be able to add metadata to the clips or to the sequence so you can actually bring that back. So for example, it may be a clip of a lion by a waterhole in South Africa. So we add those 3 metadata tags and then we can bring this data back. So as the content becomes larger, you have to look at how you store this content, how you manage it, and how you wish to protect this in the future. So the workflow is effectively from ingest to archive. How do you manage that total process? And before you look at buying storage, a MAM or an archive, you need to sit down and work this process through. Okay. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is, depending on the camera or format you use, this gives you an indication of how many gigabits of data per hour will be stored on your storage. So if we talk about ABC Intra, we are talking about 23.5 gig Avid, DN XHD, we're talking about 14.6, ProRes 422 HQ, you're talking about roughly 94, and XDCAM, you're talking about 20. Now, importantly, we are going to look at ProRes in a bit more detail to give you a sample of the problems you will face by choosing various codecs. The ProRes 422 HQ is compressed codec. And what I'm trying to say here is that if you get an uncompressed variant, what the impact that will have on the speed of your storage, the amount of storage you require, and the size of the archive you need to purchase or you need to plan for in the future. So if we look at the top, we've got HD, UHD, and 4K compressed codecs. So we're just taking Apple ProRes as an example, 422. But you can see by the resolution of HD that it's 184 megabits per second. Following that down, you can see it exponentially grows as you go to 2K, 737, 4K, 786, depending on the resolution and the number of frames. So what we're saying with your standard Apple ProRes, which is used by, say, 50% of the market, which is a very good standard editable codec. For 10 hours of shooting, you get it fills 1 terabyte of storage. So if you've got 10 cameras running, this gives you an idea of how quickly you are going to fill your storage up. But more frightening, the desire to produce 4K, an uncompressed variant of 4K, 442, you're talking about 1.9 terabytes per hour. So if anyone comes to you and says, I want to shoot 4K uncompressed, you better make sure you have got hundreds of terabytes, if not petabytes of storage, and very fast storage at that to be able to cope. All right, so the solution to this is you need very good storage with excellent performance, and you need to be able to manage this content, so you will have your active or work in progress files, and then you will have those files which are infrequently accessed and those files you wish to archive. So this is done through a thing called storage tiers, which I'll talk about in 1 minute. Now the workflow requires you have good storage meaning fast storage, expandable storage, storage that grows, and the management features to be able to move that from tier 1 to tier 3. Okay. Now, archive really in the media space has become more of an issue over the last 3 years, because when we initially done storage installations, very few people spoke about archive. They said, just give us more disk, but as the content has grown and as the file sizes have grown, archive has become one of the key requests now. It's previously people didn't really worry about it, but now it's becoming more prevalent. Now the guys in your normal data structure, your IT guys, which is structured data, whether that's email data, CRM, database, have been doing this for many years, whether it's duplicating content, whether it's replicating content off-site, on-site to tape. They are very, very sort of familiar with this process. On the unstructured side, which is the media side, this really has come into its own, really I would say only in the last 2 or 3 years. So we're now talking about storage locally. You may want to do it really site to site. It's becoming more important. You may want to put it on the cloud, or you may want to geo-spread using object-based storage. Now, looking at the storage tiers, what you want to be able to do is to use your fast, expensive storage for work in progress. When that work is complete and gone to where or literally sent to the client, you want to be able to move that to slower and cheaper drives for infrequent use. And then for tier 3, this is similar to LTO, but LTO is tape. What we can do is, if we use object-based storage, we can store this data over multiple sites. So it's got extra protection, and it also gives you business continuity. So if one site goes down, site 2 can still work, site 3 can still work. This can either be done through synchronization, this can be done as a DR, or what I like about this, if your timeline goes down in LA, you can pick the timeline up in New York. Now, tape LTO is the cheapest long-term storage on the market. Many years ago when SD tape died, we said, and everything moved to IP, we said tape is dead, but now really tape is back. So we've got LTO 7 now holding 6 terabytes native. Importantly, any of these libraries, I think the smallest ones start at 12, some start at 24, but you need to be able to grow these libraries. So I would say the smallest you need to be looking at is 24. You can then grow that to 48, 96, and it just scales to petabytes. Now, with any archive integration, there must be seamless integration between the storage vendor and the MAM and the final archive, whether it is the cloud, tape, etc. It also must give you the ability to have multi-site data protection with DR. This is also wrapped up in business continuity in case of site loss, which I think is becoming more important. So object-based storage, although probably not so popular at the minute because it's so new, but I think moving forward over the next 18 months, 2 years, this will become the main form of business continuity between multiple sites. The other thing is any archive must be able to handle standard and complex media, whether that is P2, XDCAM, etc. And importantly, you must have the ability to report and give stats on what has been archived, what has been restored, if anything is blocking the system, how long is stuff taken to get back, can we schedule work to happen in 5 hours later, 1 hour later, can we cancel that, and maybe we have some urgent work to restore. We need that ability to be able to manage the system. Automatic tiering just means if we sort of create a rule for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, it will automatically move that data based on access. If it hasn't been accessed for 1 month, please move it, etc., and then purge it off the system. Self-healing is very important, or I think is very important, because there are quite a lot of systems out there where people have bought a storage system and backup and have never tested the restore process, and when they come to use the tape that has been sitting on their shelf for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, it doesn't function because they've used it so often, they haven't stored it in the correct manner. So self-healing looks at the tape and ensures that if you wish to make a restore in 6 months, 12 months, it has actually checked that tape out. Ease of use and expansion is just huge. Most archiving systems are not renowned for their ease of use. They tend to be dedicated to one person to bring the data back. So it's important you find a system that reports well, is easy to use, and importantly, you can expand that moving forward. Part of the overall goal for any system is to make sure it's open, and with that really comes the API. You need to be able to use that exchange metadata between multiple systems, because no one company sits in an island. You're using multiple editing packages, playout systems, you may be using different transcoding engines, and you need the ability to have a seamless integration from ingest to archive. Worldwide support goes without saying. A lot of companies need to be working 24/7, 365, so basically you need to go with a vendor. If that's your requirement, you need to ensure that you go with a vendor who can give you that. Now with integration, I'll just talk a little bit about ourselves. We've been involved with systems integration with large storage systems. From that, we have developed many variables on MAM systems. We've done a lot of integration with, CatDV to really some of the largest corporates in the world. And part of that is creating scripts, adapting software so it'll work with, it'll work with people like Quantum and Storage Manager. So we've written middleware between sort of Quantum and CatDV that gives you full reporting on moving data between those two systems. So what we try and do is that we try and give you a menu bar that says, with the Quantum, move to archive, copy to archive, retrieve from archive, and purge online, because the user must have the ability to manage this content. So it's important that you have this close integration between the storage vendor and the archiving. I hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Are you there, Brian? Hello?
Did we lose Brian?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Matt. I can hear you.
Okay. Is Brian there, or are we got everyone there? Has our host disappeared?
I do see one question in the chat.
Yeah.
Do you have the same, and I think this is probably more for Dave, do you have the same seamless user experience for Avid Media Composer and Pro Tools? Dave, are you still with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have what we like to say is we have integrations with the major NLEs, and so we have some great stuff with Apple, great stuff with Adobe, pretty good stuff with Avid, pretty good stuff with Blackmagic and Sony Vegas and Smoke. What we say with Avid is that rather than having deep integrations, that we have a number of really strong workflows. So the way that Media Composer works, and possibly down to the attitude of some of the team at Avid as well, is they don't necessarily make it super easy to integrate. So, when I was talking about safety and choosing a solution that's either locking you into an ecosystem or giving you open access to an ecosystem, well, clearly Avid are trying to protect their own ecosystem. They don't necessarily make it easy to integrate in the same way as the other vendors do. Having said that, we have some great workflows with Avid, so being able to catalog and index the Avid media files folder and being able to work with MXF footage works really well. In fact, there's a few things coming in the pipeline in the coming months as well that will add another couple of extra workflows with Media Composer. So I'm not going to say that the Media Composer workflow is as seamless as the stuff we have, particularly with Apple and Adobe. But at the same time, it's pretty good and very usable, particularly when folks are using multiple NLEs in a facility. For Pro Tools, we are always on the lookout for being able to work with other tools. At the moment, the kind of Pro Tools kind of integration is really around being able to use watch folders to move things in and out, handling a wide variety of audio formats and audio markers. So we have pretty good support for audio and for Pro Tools, but not a specific integration for Pro Tools.
Hey guys, this is Brian Fraser. I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, Brian. Yeah.
I had my mic on mute, and when I tried to come back from mute, my mic did not want to cooperate, so I apologize for that. Dialed in on the telephone now. It's the backup for all your audio-visual woes. So I just wanted to encourage people, we do have a couple minutes left. Go ahead and type questions into the Q&A panel if you have anything you want the panel to address. I just wanted to ask another quick question. For somebody who doesn't use a MAM now, what's the kind of time frame for rolling one out? How much do I need to budget for, once I've got this spec? How long does it take to actually install and roll out the thing?
Yeah, so it's Dave again. I'll have a go at that one, and maybe one of my colleagues would like to overlay if there's something else to say. But so I think so I hate to give the consultant's answer that it depends, but with CatDV, because we focus on simplicity and not just simplicity of use, but simplicity of config, then assuming that a customer has a strong workflow design and they understand what their workflow really is, because it's quite possible to use a MAM and to enforce a workflow that's just wrong. But assuming that you've got a good understanding of workflow, then we've seen successful CatDV deployments in a couple of weeks. Whereas we know that for some of the very complicated tools out there in the business, then it really does. You do have to have a consultant working with you for 6 to 9 months to make their software work the way that you really want them to. So, having said that, probably our biggest deployment in the last year or so done a whole load of stuff with a big sports organisation, and it's it's got 2 massive Cat DV deployments, one that goes around the world in a big freight truck, and it's got 40 of our automation engines and many clients and lots of Vantage integration with Telestream, and that took us 3 months end to end, and that was a pretty sophisticated workflow. So in fact, we spent a month defining the workflow with them and then 3 months implementing it. So that was a 4-month. And so somewhere in between, I think is probably about right. But, a month, 2 months is, if you've got a good understanding of your own requirements and your own workflow, is not unreasonable.
Okay. And then another question. I know we've talked about, specifically Cat DV and, Quantum StoreNext system. But we've got a question. Do you recommend selecting the MAM or the storage system first? Do they go together, or can you pick one? Does that inform your choice of the other? Or, I mean, what's the best way to go about that? Is it a chicken and egg situation, or what?
Well, so I'll let Matt go first, because I'm itching to answer that one. But you go first, Matt.
I'm kind of pull a trick out of Dave's hat here. It kind of depends, right? I think if a customer is at critical mass in their storage, and the storage is either failing or not performing, that may be the immediate business need. I think sometimes you have to look at the business need, but I do think in some regards it is a chicken and an egg scenario. If you have a disorganized workflow and you add a bunch more storage, it's just going to be more storage in a disorganized workflow. But at the same time, if you deploy Cat DV and it's not fast enough the storage is not fast enough to keep up with the workflow, then it's going to present a different set of challenges. So I guess in some ways it depends. But the ideal scenario is to deploy them at the same time.
Absolutely. I was going to say, Matt, that so we've seen time and again people who put storage in first because that's this year's project and that's what they got the budget for, and then they find that they've got a SAM that's full and that they don't know how to move things on to other tiers of storage like the ones that Ken was talking about, and because nothing's been catalogued, then they're almost in a worse position. They have to buy some more storage before they can really put asset management on and then start to curate stuff. And so we see time and again, in fact, our survey results told us that 5% of our respondents regularly reshoot content because they can't find stuff they know they've already got. And we know, and we see that kind of stuff when we implement too. 35% of our respondents said that they sometimes reshoot stuff. So in a year, they would typically reshoot at least something. That's really expensive. So maybe there's some budget in there to be able to try and do both at the same time. And then an example, Matt's done a huge number of asset management deployments, and he was telling me a few months ago, a Cat DV deployment that he was involved in. He saw that the same organisation had brought the same piece of stock footage 5 times over, and it was all sitting there. Cat DV found them; they were the same things. They'd been bought 5 times over. A huge waste of cost for an organisation. So I guess my personal view, after having worked with Cat DV for a while, is I can't understand how anybody could buy large storage without having some kind of index on it, because it's going to cause problems later. So I guess I'd probably say buy a little bit less storage and start small with Cat DV so you get both at the same time, and then when budgets go, then increase your storage and increase your Cat DV. So.
All right. Yeah, that's got to hurt when you find out you've been buying the same piece of stock content repeatedly because you had no way of keeping track what you did or didn't have in your archive. So that's
right.
Another example of where.
No, that's common.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are actually out of time. We've run a few minutes over, so I think we're going to wrap this up. But I want to thank everybody who attended the webinar, as I do all of the Studio Daily webinars. And I especially want to thank our presenters, Dave, Matt, and Ken, for taking the time to come in here this afternoon and give us a rundown from top to bottom on a lot of different things that you need to think about when you're contemplating, not just MAM, but storage workflow in general. It's a huge issue, and it's becoming more important with every passing year as file sizes get bigger and compression options multiply and workflows in general just get more complicated. So thanks very much, everyone. For everyone who's attending, I want to repeat that if you missed part of the presentation, got here late, keep an eye on your email and you'll receive a link and you'll be able to view the entire webinar on demand at your convenience. So you can catch up with everything or share it with your colleagues. So thanks again, everyone, for another successful Studio Daily webinar, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.